This is Implement RSTP and Advanced STP Modifications Lab for the CCNP course. This lab runs completely on the free version of CML, and I'm providing the CML YAML file in the description of this video. You can directly import it into your environment and follow along. If you don't have CML installed yet, I already have a separate video showing how to install and set up the free version of CML. The whole process takes around 10 minutes, so you can get started very quickly. Before we begin, let me show you how you can import the YAML file. Go to Dashboard, click on Import, browse for the file, click Open, click Import, and go to the lab or go back to the dashboard and you'll see the lab opened up here. Once you have done that and imported the lab, you can see that by clicking on the device and going to the config, you will see these devices are already configured. So they come pre-configured, they are set up already for you. The links are there, the configuration is done. And if you click on the guide, you will see that you have a very comprehensive guide already available for you that is showing you step by step what commands to run. It has the explanation what the command does, and it shows you the output as well. You'll probably have the exact same output when you are going through this lab, and all these objectives and steps we're going to cover in this video as well. Now here we have the lab objectives that we are going to cover today, and we also have the STP operations, the port states, port roles, the STP cost, the BPDU frame format, the bridge ID format that we will keep referring back to throughout the lab. But this is not going to be theory heavy video. The main purpose of this lab is hands-on experience. So based on these objectives, we are going to practically observe the STP behavior, configure RSTP, elect root bridge, and control which switch becomes the root bridge by modifying bridge priorities and other parameters to see their actual impact on the network. Finally, we will also implement the important STP security features such as root guard, BPDU filter, and loop guard as well. Okay, let's boot up the devices. We'll click start on each device. We'll access all these devices. Let's just quickly see if it is configured. Yeah, so they are all pre-configured. It has the, okay, this is configured. So we have the SVIs configured for VLAN 1 and things are booting up still. We're good. Let's talk about the specific topology we are using in this lab and why it is important. So we are using this inverted triangle topology, which is basically a classic three-tier architecture where we have core layer, distribution layer, and access layer. So this inverted triangle topology is basically showing us the distribution layer and the access layer. So access layer is where we have multiple users connecting to the access switch here. And then the access switch itself is connected redundantly to the both distribution switches. And if we had a core layer where we would have multiple core devices here, that would be a core layer. Each distribution switch would redundantly connect back to the core layer as well, like this. So you can see the inverted triangle appears everywhere between distribution and core here as well. And if we add more access switches, it will get connected using this, like this. And we'd connect more users here. So this is why we have picked up this topology of the inverted triangle. If you understand this topology and how STP behaves in this specific topology, you basically understand how STP works throughout the enterprise networks, because this pattern is repeated again and again in the enterprise networks at scale. Okay, let's start with the objectives, build the network and configure basic device settings. We already know that these devices are configured. Let's check out what do we have here. So let's go to A1. I'm gonna open up E1 here, bring it here, and enter screen. Okay. So first of all, let's see on A1, which is access switch show IP interface brief. So topology here, show IP interface brief. This tells us that we have 4 interfaces from Ethernet 0 by 0 to 0 by 3, which are up, and these are all the interfaces that are connecting to D1 and D2. We also have a VLAN 1 SVI configured here, which is not as important, but what's more important is that we need to know how many VLANs we have in this network. So show VLAN brief shows us we have 2 VLANs. So we have 2 VLANs, default VLAN and VLAN 2, which is here everywhere. So show VLAN brief. So I'll have 2 VLANs. It is important to know how many VLANs because that tells us how many instances of per VLAN spanning trees will be running in this environment. So by default, we are on Cisco devices, you're running per VLAN spanning tree, which means there will be instance of a spanning tree running for each VLAN. In this case, there will be 2. Okay, let's start with the part 2, discover the default spanning tree and find the root bridge. The first order of the job here is that you are sitting on a network that you don't know anything about. The first thing you need to know or find out is who is the root bridge. Find the root bridge, we'll run a command called show spanning tree root. We'll run it here, we'll run it here as well, and we'll run it on D2 as well. Show spanning tree root. Okay, let's see what the output is saying. So first of all, we know that because there are 2 VLANs, so there are 2 spanning tree instances running, one for VLAN 1 and one for VLAN 2, which means there will be root bridge election done for VLAN 1 and VLAN 2. So we'll have 2 root bridges for each instance. Then we are getting the root ID for both VLAN and VLAN 2. This is telling us who is the root bridge. Inside the root ID, to understand what the root ID is, let's look at the root ID or bridge ID format. This is actually a bridge ID. It's showing us the bridge ID. Whoever's the bridge ID is shown here, that is the root. And bridge ID basically consists of bridge priority and MAC address. Bridge priority itself is partly priority and partly system ID, which is VLAN number. So by default, all of the switches, when you boot them up, they have a default priority of 32768. Plus, you add the number of VLAN in which that instance is running. So in this case, it's running on VLAN 1. You add 32768 plus 1, this becomes 32769. For VLAN 2, it becomes 32770. So by default, for VLAN 1, it will remain 32769 for all of them. So bridge ID remains same, or the bridge priority remains same for all A1, D2, and D1. That means we cannot decide who is bridge ID, who is becoming root bridge based on that. The lowest priority becomes the root bridge. In this case, all of them have the same priority. So the next tiebreaker is MAC address. Whoever has the lowest MAC address becomes the root bridge. So it is telling us that the 0100 is the root bridge. This is also telling us the 0100 is root bridge. If you go to D1, that is also telling us that the root ID is 0100. Now, we have some telltale here that is telling us that at least A1 in this case is not, go back to topology, that A1 is not a root bridge. How do we know that? By looking at this output, because A1 has root ports already mentioned here. It is saying that the root port on A1 is Ethernet 0 by 2 for both VLAN 1 and VLAN 2. So the Ethernet 0 by 2 is the root port here. Root port means it is the shortest path from A1 towards the root bridge. And it has the cost of 100. This link costs 100 to reach the root bridge. That is an indication that A1 is not root bridge. If you look at here, we don't have any root ports mentioned. This is D1. On D1, there are no root ports mentioned because the D1 itself is the root bridge. That's why its root cost is 0. On root bridge, all the ports are designated ports. There cannot be root ports on the root bridge. This is how we know D1 is the root bridge from here. You can confirm that from D2 as well, that this is the root bridge, and Ethernet 0 by 0 over here is the root port, which goes to E1 with cost of 100. Now, first question, why is the cost 100 for these links? Well, that's because these are 10 MB links, Ethernet ports. To find out is to show interface Ethernet 0x2 on A1, and it shows us the bandwidth here is 10,000 kilobits, which is 10 MB, and 10 MB is 100 cost. So that's the default cost for 100 MB links, and that's why these are 100 MB 100 costs to reach towards the root using D2 E00 or E0x2 from A1. Now we know who is the root bridge. So this is root bridge. We also know from single output of single command that these are root ports. These are root ports, so and this D2 is non-root bridge, and D1 A1 is non-root bridge. The next thing is to find, so we found the root bridge, we found the root ports. Next thing is to identify designated ports. Okay, so to identify designated ports, let's do show. And before we do that, let's also check out the MAC addresses of the devices. To find out the MAC addresses and see why D1 is the root bridge, let's do show interface Ethernet 0x0, which is the first interface. We're looking at the MAC address of the first interface, which is 0x0, will include burned in addresses because the first interface MAC address becomes the base MAC address for that switch. So for A1, it is 0A0 at the end, and look at the D2. Show interface Ethernet 0x0, include burn-in address. This is 0B100, and on A1, show interface Ethernet 0x0, include BIA. This is 0100. So 0100 is lower than 0A100. A in hex is 10, and D2 is B. B00 is 11. So 01 is lower than A and B in hex, and that's why, because it has the lowest MAC address, that's why D1 is the root bridge. Okay, so once we know the root bridge and root ports on the non-root bridge, the next thing is to find out designated ports. Find out designated ports. Let's do show spanning tree. And show spanning tree, let's do it over here as well. And here as well. Okay, so show spanning tree is telling me, okay, so show spanning tree is telling me that Ethernet 0x0 on A1 is designated. So this is designated port. 0x3 is designated. So this is designated port. And E/3 is designated, which is connecting to PC designated port, but it's shut down, and that's why it doesn't know it's the edge port basically. But we'll have to configure later on in the lab. And we have Ethernet 0x2 is the root port, so we already know that. So these are the designated ports. And if you go to D2, it's saying that has Ethernet 0x0 as root port. We already know that, but it doesn't have any designated port. Instead, and also, if you go to D1, you can see all of them are designated ports. That is another indication that this is a root port. It also says this bridge is the root bridge. This is the root bridge, and all of the roles on the ports on the root bridge are always designated. So we know that. So go back. So all of these are designated ports here, are all designated. That's done. Once we know the root ports and designated ports, what is left? Whatever is left is always blocked. So what is left? E0x1 is left, so that is blocked port. These are blocked, and these are blocked. So now we know everything about the spanning tree's default behavior. We know who is this root bridge. We know these are non-root bridges. We know the root ports here, E0 by 2, E0, 0. We know the designated ports, and we also know whatever is left, they're all being blocked. In this case, all the blocked ports, you can see the state is blocked for them, but they're called alternating ports. We go to D2 here, you'll see they are called alternative, and their state is blocked and blocked. Now, the alternative ports means they are just backup ports, meaning if something were to happen to other ports, let's say the root port, so each non-root bridge can only have one root port, which we already know. In this case, on A1, it is E0 by 2. So E0 by 1 is alternative and it is blocked. Okay. Now the first question, and that is important because that's how we block loops. Otherwise, we would create a loop. So we stop the loop by blocking Ethernet 0 by 1 on A1. Now the question here is why? Why E0 by 1 is alternative here? Why is E0 by 1 alternative and E0 by 2 is root? Although if you check it, the cost and everything else, the shortest path is same. So this is 100, the cost on Ethernet 0 by 2 is 100, the cost on Ethernet 0 by 1 is also 100. So which port to select? Which one becomes root port? How is it decided that Ethernet 0 by 2 is root port? The decision is based on the port priority. For that, let's go back to the BPDU frame. Inside the BPDU frame, when the root bridge is sending BPDUs, we go, the preference goes from left to right to the lowest for the lowest value. So we look at the root bridge. The root bridge is coming in same from on the both interfaces from root bridge towards the A1. The root path cost on both links is 100, which is again same. We have to find the lowest number in both BPDUs. So far, it is same. Root bridge ID is same, whatever the root bridge ID is, because it is the same switch. Root path cost is same from both links, which is 100 because both are 10 MB links. The standard bridge ID is again same, which is the root bridge ID on both links because everything is connected to the same switch. The final tiebreaker is on port ID. Whichever port has the lowest port ID will become the root port in this case. But the port ID of a sender, this is the mistake most engineers make. They start looking at the port ID of A1. In this case, if you look at the port IDs, Ethernet 0 by 1 has 128.2 and Ethernet 0 by 2 is 128.3. The lowest priority here is for Ethernet 0 by 1. So Ethernet 0 by 1 should have been the root, not Ethernet 0 by 2. But the trick here is that we're not looking at the port ID or port priorities of the receiving switch. We're looking at the sender. So the port priority for the sender is Ethernet 0 by 1 is lower than Ethernet 0 by 2 if everything is kept on default. That's why Ethernet 0 by 2 becomes root port, because we're not looking at Ethernet 0 by 2, we're looking at where the Ethernet 0 by 2 is connected to Ethernet 0 by 1. So if you come on D1, you can see that Ethernet 0 by 1 has port priority of 128.2, which is lower than Ethernet 0 by 2, 128.3. That's why this becomes the root port.